Hi everybody, here we're going to go over the lab, the first lab, which is going to be an introduction to Microsoft Excel. So here, first thing you do whenever you get a lab is to enter your student ID here in cell A2. Zoom in here. So you always want to enter your student ID, which is going to be a capital letter and then the numbers, into cell A2. And then after that, then you can begin the lab. Okay, so let's see the general format. So the instructions are over here. The written instructions are here. There's also a video link to the instructions here. And let's look at the rest of the lab. So here, this lab has 3 parts. So this is part 1 of the lab. And this is part 2. And this is part 3. So if you notice, the structure is the same, so you'll be doing pretty much the same procedures, but you'll just be getting different graphs. So the purpose of today's lab is just to learn how to use Microsoft Excel to perform graphs and calculations. So let's go ahead and look at the rest of the structure here. So if you notice, each of these tables has a section title, and what that refers to is here in the instructions. So whatever you read here in section A1, you have to do that here in section A1, and what you read here in section C1, then you're going to have to do that over here in section C1. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one with you, and go ahead and follow along and fill in the lab yourselves. Okay, so first thing that you want to do is to select the units, and I set up these labs so that you always select the units from a drop-down list. So here in column L, row 6, so this is cell, you can see it up here, cell L6. So in cell L6, to select the units, what you're going to do is you're not going to write the units, you're going to pick at the bottom right here. There's a little downwards arrow, so click on it, and you're going to select the units for time. So time, there's 2 options. There's there's minutes, and then there's seconds. You always want to pick the standard SI units, so that's going to be in seconds. Same thing for mass. You always want to convert grams to kilograms and millimeters and so on into meters. So that's the first part, and the next part is column M, row 6. So here, this is cell M6. So here you're going to select the units for just a plain old number. So numbers have no units. So from the list, you're going to select unit list. And that completes the first part, is just to select the units for those given numbers. The second part has to do with graphing. So here to graph, what you're going to do is you're going to select the data from the data here in table A1, and you're going to use that to create a graph. So let's see how you're going to create a graph. First thing is, don't highlight any words, only highlight the numbers. So you're going to click on cell L7, and you're going to click and hold and drag, and you're going to drag it across the entire table so that everything is highlighted. So that's the first part. Make sure everything is highlighted for the table. And the next part, once you have everything highlighted, then you're going to go to up here to insert. And once you go to insert, you're going to select charts. And then once you go to charts, you're going to click on this one here, which looks like a XY scatter. So you're going to pick scatter, and you'll pick the first one here, the one that just has the data points with no lines. So you'll click that, and let me go ahead and zoom out. So the graph, let's see where Excel put it. Oh, so yeah, so the graph is here. So let me just go ahead and drag. So the next thing is you want to drag the graph to section A1. to section C1. Okay, so I need to zoom out some more. Okay, so now that's the graph, that's the first part. And now what you want to do is to add some some information to the graph. So the first thing is you're going to add a chart title. So here, just click on chart titles and go ahead and call this one exponential growth. And the next thing is you also want to give this chart a horizontal and vertical titles. So here, the horizontal data is time, and the vertical data is a number. So the way that you're going to add those titles is click on the chart, and then once again you're going to go to let me just zoom in here. You're going to go to insert. Actually, no, here where it's you see where it says chart design. So click on make sure that the chart is selected, and once the chart is selected, then you'll see chart design appears. And then once you go to chart design, click on it, and you're going to scroll to the left. So I have to zoom out. So once you click on chart design, then here there's going to be an option all the way at the left that says add chart elements. So you click on add chart elements, and there's a couple of options. So the option that you're going to want to pick are going to be axis titles, and we're going to label both the horizontal and the vertical axis. But let's start with the horizontal axis first. So click on primary horizontal, and I need to zoom back out. So there you notice that you have the x-axis title option here. So go ahead and call the x-axis. I just like to give them titles in terms of the variable, which is t, and then comma the unit, which is s. So go ahead and do that. To zoom out. And let's repeat the same procedure, but now let's do it for the vertical axis. So for the vertical axis, go ahead again here, make sure that the chart is selected, and you see chart design up here. And then once you see chart design, you'll go to the left, and there's going to be the option for add chart elements. So click on it and go back to axis titles, and then from there you're going to pick primary vertical. And once you've picked primary vertical, then the y-axis titles appear, and here just move that up here. Call it just number, and comma, this is unitless. So that's the next part, is we've created a graph, and we've given the axes titles. The next part is we want to actually get an equation for this line. So the way that we'll do that is click on this graph here. There's two ways to do it. The first way is the quick way is to right click, make sure the data is selected, right click, and then you're going to choose the option for add trend lines. So right click on the data, any of the blue dots, and then once you right click, you'll select the option for add trend lines. That's one way to do it. Depending on the computer, you may have another way. So let me do it the way similar to the way I've just showed you for how to get the axis titles. Is make sure the graph is selected. You'll go back to chart design, and once you're on chart design, go back to add chart elements. So this could be your go-to here. Is just go to whatever you want to do to the graph. Just chart design and go to add chart elements, and here there's also an option down here for trend lines. So you're going to select that one, and let me go ahead and zoom out. And let's just go to the one that has more trend line options, because you're going to want to do more than just select the trend line. So click on more trend line options. And let me zoom out. So once more trendline options is selected, you're going to want to select a graph that looks like it fits this exponential growth. So that's going to be this one here, exponential. But that's not all you have to do. The next option that you always want to select is down here where it says display equation on chart. So make sure you always select that, because you can see right there an equation for the line came up. So always select display equation on chart when you're making your graph. And now that we've gotten the graph, you can just increase the font size here if you like, or you can leave it as is. But I'm going to go ahead and increase it. So I'm just going to highlight the data and then go to font, and I can increase the font size. Okay, so that is the next part. For part C, we've just completed it. We've created a graph, and we have axis titles, and we have an equation for the line. So the next part is to interpret this data. So here you're going to go to section D, and you're going to select that option that represents this trend line. So this looks like an exponential growth. So in in cell AD, cell AD, column AD, row 6. So here this is cell, you can see it up here, AD6. So in cell AD6 you're gonna select exponential, and the growth rate is going to be the number that E is raised to. So E is raised to the 1.8365. So here you're going to enter 1.8365. And growth rate, technically, well, the units for growth rate, the technical units are, in this case, 1/seconds. But to keep things simple for the first lab, let's just call this unitless. And that is the first part. We've completed the first half of part 1. Now, the second half is to turn this straight line into, turn this exponential curve line into a straight line.